carried. Roll call, please.
Martin Casada.
Here.
Hilda Ortega Rosales.
Here.
Susan Sarin.
Here.
Monica Granado.
Here.
And Jose Arenas.
Here.
There being 5 members, there is a quorum.
And I'll call this regular board meeting of February 3rd, 2026 to order. Can I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as presented?
So I'll second.
Ms. Ortega Rosales makes the motion, and Ms. Sue Sarin seconds. Is there any discussion? That being the case, Carrie, please take a roll call vote.
Martin Casada.
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales.
Yes.
Susan Sarin.
Yes.
Monica Granado.
Yes.
Jose Arenas.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Good. Can everyone please stand if you are able to and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Now I'll take the honor in starting this Pledge of Allegiance since we don't have little guys today, our reps. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So with that said, as we begin our meeting, information-only reports, we will now start with we'll hear current events updates from the superintendent and our governing board member. Just as a point of clarification and information, this is not a special board meeting, but one that was not on the agenda initially, hence our student representatives are not here this evening. Dr. Cruz, would you like to start?
Good evening, Mr. President, esteemed board members, cabinet, and community. First off, happy Black History Month. We're so excited to get to celebrate all the amazing individuals that contribute to our country and the world. As you know, we just got back from our Superintendent Student Council trip to New York City. We're so proud of our students. They were just amazing and open learners and adventurers. And even though they were Phoenix kids who were very thankful for their parents' decision to live in Phoenix, they braved the cold like champs. So we were really, really impressed with them. We also recently had our district spelling bee, and I literally have a picture of the cutest kid in the district who won the spelling bee, about this tall. So congratulations to our district spelling bee winner, but I would love to tell you her name, and I will tell you that later.
Okay.
But she's about that big, and she's really good at spelling. And they actually have the regional spelling bee coming up this weekend, so we have a few different student activities that are going to be happening again this weekend. I also had the opportunity to attend the Governor's State of the State address. We also had the Guppy Mac Superintendent's Day at the Capitol. I happened to run into somebody that we all know. He was down there at the Capitol as well, doing advocacy, so we really appreciate that. And we had some fantastic kickoff to kindergarten events. The school sites hosted tours and open houses for potential kindergarten families, and those were all so well done. We really appreciate everything that our principals and the school sites did to make sure that our future kindergartners were welcomed enthusiastically. This coming week, I have the opportunity to go to the National School Public Relations Association President's Summit as a member of their board. So they will actually have representatives from all 50 chapters, and then so it'll be the president and the incoming president for that chapter. They will trade ideas, so I'm really looking forward to learning a lot from colleagues from all over the country on what's working. And they've also had a really good series that's been going about how to kind of handle the messaging and how folks are responding to some of the challenges that we're facing right now in terms of immigrations and customs enforcement at school sites and how folks are communicating and connecting with their school community. So looking forward to that opportunity. That is Thursday through Sunday, so I'll be back on Sunday for that. The West Valley VEX Robotics League happened also. The kids are moving right along in VEX, and our Ed Services team is doing a fantastic job making sure that those robotics competitions are going smoothly. I saw a fantastic school improvement, network improvement community meeting. There were representatives from our instructional leadership teams from all 12 schools. And just the quality of conversation and the level of focus and conversation really shows how much our school improvement teams have improved over time. Our consultants in that work, whom you've met, from Parrott and Associates, were really blown away. From how big a change it was from one year to the next. So we're super excited about that work, and I'm excited to talk with you some more about that work this evening to show how we're hoping to accelerate some of the growth that's happening from that. And then finally, I know that some of you had the opportunity to stop by the science fair tonight, but our schools had been hosting school-based science fairs so that they could, in turn, select some of the folks who are going to be showing their presentations and their science and engineering experiments at the district science fair that's happening this evening. So I think that that's it. Those are our events for this week. And I appreciate you all so much for working this extra meeting into your schedules.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz. As we continue, we'll have board member governing board updates, and we'll begin with, to my left, with Mr. Martin Quisada.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. I don't really have a lot since our last meeting. I was glad that we had a substantive Saturday board retreat. I always appreciate those because it gives us time to kind of dive into some of these issues in a little bit more detail and in a little bit more of a relaxed environment and study them more thoroughly, which I wish we could do more often if we had the time. So I appreciate that opportunity. It sounds like that New York trip was really great. One of the students just gave me a card here, so I'm really I really like that. Thank you so much for doing that. That was really sweet of them. So just wanted to say thank you for that. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Quisada. Ms. Sue Saran.
Thank you, Mr. President. There were a lot of things going on. I know before the Superintendent Student Council trip, they had a chop competition, and it was great. They all did a fantastic job. The top 3 teams, amazingly, were all guys. Sorry, but everything looked really good. I couldn't eat most of it because it had meat in it, but, they did a great job, and they had, a lot of fun doing it. It was so cute. I went over to the Copper King Amira kickoff, and they really know how to hold a kickoff. They sure did. They had NASCAR there, and even a NASCAR they had out front. And even the president of the Phoenix Raceway was there to talk to the students. It was a great event. I went to Sunset Ridge on their steering committee meeting, and there were a number of teachers and staff there to talk about renovations at that school. And we were talking about some of the things at Villa de Paz and Desert Horizon, but they couldn't imagine what we were talking about. I had one little postcard from the Desert Horizon ribbon cutting, and so they're looking, it's like, whoa. So they're going to be doing trips over to Villa de Paz to see, what we were talking about, because they kind of know what they want, but they, after being in just a classroom for so many years, they can't really imagine some of the things going on. So it was a great meeting, and I know when they get over to the school, they'll, have more ideas. Went to the Community Partners Lunch and Learn. A lot of our partners was there. It was great. And I didn't get to the science fair today, but I did go to Desert Mirage and Sunset Ridge, also Garden Lake Science Fair, and Amberlea's, and they were great. I know at Garden Lakes, it wasn't mandatory, so they didn't have as many, but 3 of the 8th graders were in the room, and they gave me a presentation on their projects, and they were really, really fascinating. Let's see. Oh, and I did go to Pendergast. They had their PBL showcase. It was about energy sources. And I've got to tell you, the parents there looking at their projects, there were a lot of them. It was great. Garden Lakes had a career day, and the field literally was, a mass of buses, fire engines, SWAT, you name it. And there were also booths in the cafeteria, and it was great. I mean, in the gymnasium. It was a great day. They really got a lot of things. And it was thanks to the 2 counselors there at Garden Lakes. So that was good. And that should do it.
Thank you, Ms. Saran. Ms. Ortega Rosales.
Thank you. I have been out of town, so I don't have much of a report. I am also very happy to have gotten this card, this postcard. It's so meaningful when you have the students that we serve acknowledge that there is individuals that are creating some great opportunities for them, and to take advantage of those. And I know you are. I know all of you. You're a great group of students and leaders. And I saw that most recently at the competition for what was it called? The chop. Yeah. I saw that leadership just, it was all over the room. And so thank you for that acknowledgement. It goes a long way when things get a little difficult, and you see these things, you see the students' faces, and it gives you that energy to continue. So thank you for your thoughts. That's all I have.
As always, thank you, Ms. Ortega Rosales. Our Vice President, Ms. Granado.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. So I was able to attend the district spelling bee, and whether you know the students that are participating or not, you can't help but just be so nervous because the room is completely quiet and you have to get up there and spell these wild words that, half of them I didn't even know how to spell. I'm like, how are these kids doing this? So I'd love to attend those bees because I could never. So that was great. I think that the winner was from Sunset Ridge. I'd have to double check that, but great job to everyone that participated in those spelling bees. Also, I know we mentioned science fairs were happening around the district. I was able to attend one of the schools, but I just came from the district one as well, and it was a big turnout. There was a lot of students there presenting their projects, and the parents. They had little chairs. Those were already full. People were already standing in the back. So I couldn't stay for the whole thing, but I waved and said, great job. And so it was great to see all of the projects, because it wasn't just, a science demonstration. There was some engineering projects that were just so impressive. Lastly, I attended the third robotics tournament. I believe they have one more left, so definitely want to invite everyone for their final tournament. And I believe it's this Saturday, starts around 10 o'clock at the community center. So again, seeing the teamwork between all these teams, because as much as they have their robots out there, they are competing against other teams, but when they are paired up, they're working together. So if the other team doesn't get points, it's a joint effort. So that's also one of my favorite events to go to. So yeah, I think that was the last event, and I think that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Granado. I, too, attended the science fair this evening, and, it's not often that we often do have that opportunity to honor our students. But when it's one of our own, it's very special. So I want to take this opportunity, and this is probably a surprise, but Ms. Granado, your little guy is an awesome young man. And it was unplanned, folks. I walked up, I started talking to the presenters and some of the kids, and there's Samuel, right? Samuel, I hope and he's your walking PR, your public relations. And I know it's an honorable time to be a parent when you're at a fair and at an event like that. But for you and your husband, I just thought it was very special, because he just like, and he goes, how's the presidency going, Mr. Ernest? Yeah, he goes, I talked to her, but what need, and I think you need, I do know that you need to know that, because it's powerful. And so certainly I talked to your little guy about you, obviously, and dad, and it was really, but he was just on fire, and it was so cool because he was talking about a walking stick on steroids, if you will, right? Basically on audio, and he was doing some embedding some technology pieces. It was really cool. He goes, well, it really didn't work out, Mr. Reyes, but here's what we're working on. Like, oh, man, this guy. But again, I think you need, actually, again, I don't think you need to know that. So I thought it was very special. And I talked to Martin and Sophia at the science fair. They were, again, to see the trifolds, the presentation panels, we were talking about them, Ms. Granado and a few of us, this AI and I'm BG, what BG is now before Google, but not OG, or maybe I am OG, but that's another story. But to see this interaction with the kids, the students, wow, that was really cool. So again, Sophia and among Samuels and Martin were really explaining it was so neat. Martin was talking about, I'm sorry, Sophia, she had like 8 petri dishes, and she was growing like this. It's kind of like all these, all these diseases come here and this and that. And, I tested the girls' restroom, the boys' restroom. And I said, that's real good, man. So, but it was cool. She goes, I thought the girls, I'm sorry, she said, I thought the boys' restroom would be dirtier, just from doing her studies. She goes, it was the girls. And I said, well, why is that? She goes, well, because I think the guys use urinals. And okay, that's it. So, but just her thinking, her mindset. So I was very, Dr. Cruz, again, kudos to the teachers and the staff. I'm happy to hear that the New York trip went very well. I know that they missed somebody very special to them, dear to them, Mrs. Aaron, but she's not under transfer portal. She's on the IR, on the injured reserve list, but she'll be okay. Passed by. I did not stop at Garden Lakes, but I did see, again, yes, the event that was going on, the career fair. to see all those presenters out there was really cool, really neat. So I wasn't unable to stop, but it just it says a lot about the community. I thought, again, that January 24th, the board retreat, thank you, Dr. Cruz, to you and your team, Ms. Tussey, Ms. Fiembres, and, of course, Dr. Brown, who were there, Ramiro and Ray and Carrie and the whole team. What a wonderful presentation. So that was good for us. Yes, happy Black History Month to all our students, staff, and our community members. And I believe this week is the kickoff to National Counselors Week, right? Yeah, I got you, huh? No. So, again, kudos to our counselors. Again, they go up and beyond as all our staff members do. But when it comes to once again, the social, emotional well-being of our kids, staff, and community, it says a lot. So, it's a good place to be, and thank you, Dr. Cruz. And thank you, everyone, for your reports and your updates. As we continue, Carrie, are there any citizens' comments?
No, there are none.
Okay, good. It's a good answer. Sorry. No. Gotta stop saying that. Okay, Dr. Cruz, any new hires? Oh, I'm sorry. My bad, folks. Sorry. Kind of rookie I am. Can I have a motion in terms of the consent agenda? Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through F?
So moved.
Mr. Senator Quesada makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Vice President Granado makes a second. Any discussion? That being the case, Carrie, please take a roll call vote.
Martin Quezada?
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales?
Yes.
Susan Sarin?
Yes.
Monica Granado?
Yes.
And Jose Arenas?
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Thank you. Dr. Cruz, any new hires or announcements relative to the consent agenda we just approved?
Good evening, Mr. President, esteemed board members, cabinet, and the community. We have hired another bus driver. That's pretty fantastic. Yeah. So we want to welcome our new bus driver. We also have a new office assistant at Garden Lakes. And really importantly, too, we have some K-3 instructional assistants who are joining us, and they're going to be helping make sure that kids stay safe on the playground and also helping students during their reading block. So congratulations and welcome to all of them. We are so glad that they chose Pendergast.
Again, thank you, Dr. Cruz. Presentation action items. So at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Cruz to the podium to present the proposed strategic plan organizational model. After the presentation, there will be time for questions and a vote for possible approval of job descriptions. So with that said, do we continue with no, we won't until the presentation, right? All right. Okay. Dr. Cruz.
Good evening, Mr. President, esteemed board members, cabinet, and the community. So I want to talk a little bit about some of these different ideas that our team has been considering over the course of this last few months as we're thinking about how to scale our work up. As you saw during the board retreat on Saturday, we're pleased that our mid-year benchmark assessments are trending in the right direction. As you know, we have been making incremental improvements in student learning, both in reading and math. It's our hope that we can accelerate that work that's been happening and see even greater improvement in student learning. And so we've got that in mind as we've been talking about this model. In addition, I've been taking a look, as I had mentioned on Saturday, at a few different bodies of research. One relates to helping students and helping young people really improve their economic conditions, right? So how can we help people end generational poverty and start to move into, different social economic groups? So that's one body of research that we were looking at. We also looked at the research behind improvement science. There's a great deal of research, both from the business world and also from the instructional world, about how do we improve schools? So how do we get better outcomes for children and also for staff, like working purposefully using improvement science? So we looked at that work. And then finally, you don't actually see very much work that relates to the more administrative work that happens in school districts. Where you do see that kind of research, though, is in the business world, particularly about enterprises and kind of the direction that businesses, large-scale organizations are moving in right now in order to maximize productivity and improvement, and also to improve the employee experience as a whole for their employees. So it's really taking all three of those pieces into account as we were thinking about our current school district, how it's structured, how we're serving kids, and how we're serving our colleagues. And so you can see, we're thinking about this as a social enterprise. Obviously, we are not a for-profit business. We're a social enterprise. We get, obviously, government funding. You've seen some of the different work that we've done in various fundraising efforts. And you can also see that sometimes fees are charged to users of their service. And put a pin in that. We're gonna talk about that. There actually is precedent for school districts across the state of Arizona setting up some different enterprises where they do charge fees for service. And in those places, that's working really well. And that's a space where I think that we can start to lean into. So really the difference here between a traditional public structure, as you can see, it's a little bit more department-centric. You can find sometimes siloed work. We benefit from having a group of professionals who really like each other. And most importantly, though, they're really called to serve children. And so what we find actually are very few kind of relational silos. That doesn't really happen here in Pendergast, but we do find some functional silos from time to time in terms of people staying so, strictly in their space that they, it becomes, they take umbrage when other folks cross into their space. But really, if you look at the, kind of the enterprise models that businesses are operating within now, they're starting to form interdisciplinary teams and then giving those teams the opportunity to make some autonomous decisions as long as their key performance indicators and deliverables are meeting the targets that have been set by their executive leadership team. And so that's really what we're talking about as we're thinking about an enterprise model. So, a few reasons that can work. Hopefully our colleagues will get a little bit more coherence. So we want to make sure that all parts, so all divisions, are actually talking with each other. This is one of those things, so weekly our administrators receive an administrative weekly update. That gives them a heads up for due dates and other things that we need up to like a month ahead of time. And then it's a calendar for the week. And so, one of the challenges is that admin update can be quite lengthy because there are so many different compliance measures, or it might be, that someone in one part of the department or district office doesn't know that someone else is setting a due date for certain times. And so we're hoping to create a little bit more coherence by having folks working across disciplinary teams. The idea here for the network teams is that they would support and grow that excellence that we're already seeing take root with our instructional leadership teams, and we're also hoping to add additional value to our community. So this is kind of a visual overview of the work that we're doing. Obviously, at the heart of our work is student learning. That has always been true here in Pendergast. It's a fantastic place to be because of that. And so if we think about our students then, as you're looking at this, I want you to think about those supports that are closest to students that are actually forward-facing. So teachers and children and families might actually directly experience that kind of support in that lighter ring that's in the center. The outer ring then are administrative supports. And each disciplinary area actually has some administrative supports that we're required to do primarily for compliance issues related to either the Department of Education or maybe the federal government. But there's quite a bit of administrative work that has to get done in order for us to remain in compliance. And as you know, we have decades of successful audits and financial reporting excellence, because we do tend to precision so well. We just don't want to lose track of providing that daily support for teachers and children, even though we do have to maintain those compliance pieces. So we're wanting the support to flow to schools, directly to them. And so the way that, we've split up the school system is by thinking about it in these 5 buckets of community impact, financial stewardship, operations, learning and innovation, and talent. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about each one of those pieces. But what's happening, though, in terms of improvement science at our schools is that each school has an instructional leadership team. That instructional leadership team has a target, and they're working on an identified challenge. They work on that challenge and what to do about it for anywhere from months, 6 weeks. They're working on those. They can go up to 90 days, as you can see, 30, 60, 90 days. So those school PDSAs are happening, and those grade level teams then are talking about it. So if there was some kind of literacy practice that they were trying to improve, or math practice we were trying to improve, obviously our first grade teachers are going to be having a different conversation about that than our 7th grade teachers. So they're having those conversations. So picture these micro improvements are happening, and they're happening in professional learning community meetings all throughout these 30, 60, 90 days. So they come up with a plan, right? They start to do that plan. Then they study the results, so what happened, right? And then we take action. And so the school network teams are going to be supporting the implementation. So this really is going to be driven by the schools and what the schools are saying they need to work on for those short cycle improvements. But that network improvement team is going to have the expertise that it takes to turn those plans into something that really happens in classrooms. The district improvement team then is going to be following the same protocol. So these network teams will come together and have those conversations about what's happening at the schools and then what they can do to provide that ongoing support. This model, because we've got the 5 divisions, actually has a 5-chief enterprise model. You'll notice that really the difference here is, we've moved some things. So we'll start with Chief Talent Officer, because that's a job description that you all had approved at our last governing board meeting. And so what we are really wanting to focus on is that employee experience. We have employees who now have different expectations of their employer than when I started working. My expectation was, hope for a paycheck every 2 weeks if I was owed one. And, that was, pretty much stay in bounds, right? Like you knew that you had someone who was going to help you, keep track of board policy and whether or not you were adhering to it, right? But there's a very different sort of outlook now with folks. And so, what we're wanting to do is have someone who can support that employee experience and really help build that belonging, do the career coaching. And also, that division is going to be in charge of upskilling our workforce. So if you think about our current workforce, we have just under 1,000 employees, but only 400 of them actually get structured ongoing professional development, the teaching faculty. Now, we actually do quite a bit of work with our leadership team as well, but there are still somewhere in the neighborhood of 500, 600 employees that don't receive that structured, ongoing, improvement. And one of the challenges, too, is that if we want to keep folks, then we need to do some career counseling with them so that they can see their path forward with Pendergast, and also so that we can help them if they're interested in career growth or if they have a long-term career trajectory. So that's our idea, with talent management, is to be that source for them. You'll see that we're going to be moving, and here, let me see if I can, let me find them. There they are. So we're going to be moving mentoring into that, as well as professional development and training. So we currently have mentoring that is coming out of our educational services department, but that's it. And so we want to actually move that into talent management so that we can make sure that we're supporting employees from their start of their career with us all the way through. So let me go back. I'll go back this way then. So fiscal stewardship is obviously something that we have been, frankly, quite good at for some time, because of the board's leadership and also because of our own stance to make sure that we were being good stewards of public funds. So the financial services department is going to have exactly what you're expecting, things like accounts payable, our finance and business services, Our enterprise financial support will come out of there. Payroll will stay in that space. Now, the part that's actually closer to the students is their support of student activities funds, as well as some training that comes out of that division to make sure that our school-based sites have the training that they need in order to meet the high standards that we've got for handling cash and, basically just managing our financial resources. Our community impact department is going to be growing in scope. So right now we primarily focus on communications and marketing, and there's a need to mature that part of our organization into family partnerships and family engagement. And we have a great start with that. There's already some phenomenal work that's happening in this space. And so hopefully by having that focus, we'll be able to grow that incredible work that's happening even more. So you'll see that family partnership and engagement work is the part that's really closest to our schools, in addition to some of that crisis communication management that we provide support for to the schools. When something tough is happening, we help the principals with the messaging, and we keep track of those pieces so that they don't have to. They can focus on student and staff safety, and also to make sure that our families are getting timely communication. That work is going to continue, but in addition to that, we'll have the family partnerships and engagement coming out of that division. You'll see that we'll continue to have community partnerships in that space as well. And the Pendergast Community Center management has currently been with our grants management person, and we'd like to put that with community impact, because obviously the work that's happening there has a significant impact on our community, and we want to make sure that is where one would expect to find it in our org chart. We talked about talent management. I just want to show you really briefly what that org structure would look like. It's really important for you to know that as I'm showing you all these structures, you are not going to be able to account one for employees. This is not intended to account for every employee. I just wanted to show you some of the structures that are going to be existing. So you'll see that direct support for the employee experience is going to come out of our novice mentoring and our other mentoring programs, as well as the employee experience director that we're recommending for career growth and training. And then you'll see that we have those much needed administrative supports in human resources, benefits management, those employee transitions that happen, and other administrative support that the state really requires of us. So for operations, I'm recommending separating operations and finance, because right now it's just so critical for us to make sure that our financial team is focused on our revenue, on how that looks, on how we're investing that, and how effective we're being as stewards of that fund, which is different, obviously, than on the operational side of the house. So we'll continue, obviously, to have transportation and food services. Those are really forward-facing. The kids see those, and our families certainly see that every day. So those are our more forward-facing pieces of operations, although operations is funny because in some ways they are absolutely the first thing that you see, because whenever you drive by one of our buildings, you can certainly see the good work of our operations team. So that's actually really high profile for us on the operational side of the house. But one of the things that is unusual that I want to call attention to is the enterprise development. So again, thinking about our revenue streams. We currently receive federal and state grants. We do have some private grants as well. So those are grants from other organizations, NGOs, non-governmental organizations. And it would be great if we can have someone who's really focusing on that, and that is still going to live in ed services. But the other idea about diversifying our revenue stream is to think about what kinds of support might we be able to provide for other school systems. And so one of the tasks for the operational chief is going to be to figure out what we do really well, what we might be able to be a value-add service provider to other systems, other entities, so that we can start to bring in some different forms of revenue. One example of that is in Deer Valley. They have a print shop that has been hugely successful and has been a great source of additional income for them. Also in Vail, they have a curriculum that's called Beyond Textbooks. That's been happening for years, many, many years, that they have had a very successful enterprise happening in that space. And so, like our colleagues in those districts, we think we can join them and then bring in some additional revenue. For student learning and innovation, obviously this is kind of the front of the house. This is really the heart of our work as a school district. So those capacity building supports, the things that teachers and students will see every day, are those school improvement network teams. The idea is that those teams are going to be at our schools, again, focused on the instructional leadership team work and what their plans were for the do. So if they had something specific that needed to happen that involved exceptional students, for instance, and maybe one of our exceptional student services folks would go in and maybe model something for a teacher or talk them through the lesson planning. It's possible that one of our literacy folks might go in and model how do you do this phonics instruction and then coach the teacher through those next lessons. So we're wanting to take advantage of the expertise that we have on hand, but really put that expertise shoulder to shoulder with the faculty to make sure that we're continuously upskilling the faculty and helping the principals achieve those instructional leadership team goals that they've set. So it's going to be critical for that network team to be partnering with the school leadership. Really, really important, because the idea is that they're actually going to amplify the work of the instructional leadership team, not send it into different directions. So it's really going to take collaboration and cooperation and some very close partnership in order for this to work correctly. And so you'll see, obviously, the student behavior supports are going to continue. We've actually had a fantastic model for student behavior supports. We're going to continue that model because it has been so successful. What we're going to do is actually have them be a part of a team where we have the other disciplines. Because what we know is that sometimes what's going on in the classroom instructionally could cause a reaction from a student that's unexpected. And so if we can have all these experts on hand, we think that we can do some problem solving, with the faculty in order to, have environments that are more welcoming to all kinds of kids. You'll see, though, that we do have to maintain our administrative supports that, frankly, we've been really good at. Things like registration, right? Exceptional Student Services certainly has an extraordinary amount of administrative work that has to happen there in order for us to remain in compliance with the federal government. And then, of course, the work of curriculum instruction and assessment. So I just wanted to show you an example of what those school support network teams could look like. I do want to caution you again, this is not an attendance roster. You're not going to be able to look at this and check off every person who works in educational services. And quite frankly, some of these teams are going to shift dependent upon the talent that we hire. So the idea is that once we have all these folks, we're going to put them into teams once we put our schools into groups, okay? So stick with me. Each director is going to be leading a network team. Okay, so those folks that are on the top row, that group of folks below them, okay, they're supervising those network team members. So again, we're going vertically now, that one network improvement team is going to be supporting 4 schools. So the director is expected to attend those instructional leadership team meetings and help the principal as a thought partner think through what support the staff is going to need in order to actually do that part of their plan. So to actually take action in the classroom, what is going to be needed there? And so what you're seeing in these different job titles are hopes. This is kind of where we're at right now. Again, this could change after we have everybody on board for where we think we're going to need. And so you can see these specialty areas, right, that are in each network team. And this is the part that's going to be, I think, the hardest on our colleagues, because there's supposed to be fluidity, and we do structure and routine really well. Structure and routine is our bread and butter as educators. We are, in fact, taught not to be fluid or to give children surprises, because that's when we tend to see things get out of hand. So this is really going against the grain, because every week this group of 15 people plus some other folks are going to come together and have that conversation about what the improvement is looking like at each school site, and to figure out if actually one of these other members of the team needs to go to another school that's outside of their 4 schools in order to provide support for a situation that they haven't been able to figure out. So that fluidity is really important, and I think it's going to be really awkward when we start, and that is going to be okay. Because what we want to do is actually give these network improvement teams some parameters to work in, and then for them to have permission to just go. So we really don't want them to, have to check in with us. We do need to see that the ILT teams are meeting. We do need to see what data is coming out of that. We need to be, making sure that they're, having that weekly interaction with the staff in the schools. But they are going to have quite a bit of decision-making authority, and we think that's really important in order for them to really get the work done in partnership with our principals. And that's the part that is mimicking then what businesses are doing right now, which is putting groups of interdisciplinary teams in place, giving them budgets, giving them decision-making authority, and then requesting, that KPI data. So that's essentially what we're going to be doing here on the instructional side of the house first. So we're leaning into this instructional work first because that is obviously our end game, to make sure that kids are learning the state standards. So that's why we started with them. But you'll also see, remember I said the administrative supports? That must be a very, very nice car. These actually go together. You have these handouts. They kind of go like this. So all these folks are in educational services, right? So again, the administrative supports are what we had previously talked about. This is just an example of one of our projects that actually impacted all of the different departments of our organization, that Dreamscape Learn implementation. It's just a really good example, I think, of how we want these innovation hubs to work, because this was kind of a hat trick. I managed to aggravate the entirety of the school system when we started doing this work. So we want to actually have different divisions from across the system become a part of an innovation hub. So they would send representatives to these meetings. They would stand up that project team. We would have key dates and deliverables, and that team would have permission again to just get that work done. And we think that that's actually going to be a much more efficient way to get the work done, and we think that we can still get a really good end outcome. So again, that's just an example of an innovation hub. I think obviously because human resources is going to be owning employee training and career growth, they certainly can't be expected in human resources to be able to facilitate professional learning for all the disciplines that are in the school district, right? So they're going to need to bring in like different colleagues at different times for some of those training pieces. And there are other activities and events as well that, those innovation hubs are going to be stood up. But the operating idea is the same. We give these, professionals some parameters and let them get to work. In terms of process, as I had mentioned, we started these conversations in December. Early engagement with the executive leaders, our leadership team, and potentially impacted employee groups. And it was important to me that we talk with all the potentially impacted employees, because I didn't want there to be any surprises. The last thing that we need for an employee is to turn on the governing board meeting tonight and find out that they're impacted in some way, by structural changes. I think that's just patently unfair and frankly not professional. The challenge then, though, in telling people about this work early is that it's really anxiety-inducing, and so I really can't speak enough to the work that Mrs. Elliott did, Dr. Brown, the team from Educational Services. They're just like utmost professionals, when you're able to tell an entire division of people like, hey, we're working on a restructuring, we really hope you're on board with this. And, their response is, hey, if it's going to help kids, we're going to figure this thing out, just really remarkable. I think it just really speaks volumes to the character of the folks that we have hired over time. And I've always been really open in saying that I believe that we have the right talent. I just think that we don't have folks working in ways that can really enable our school improvement process to grow and have the kind of impact that we're hoping for. And that's not on them. That is kind of how school districts have grown up. The district offices have grown largely out of compliance requirements from various departments, either in ADE, legislative requirements, federal requirements. So this is definitely a no-fault kind of situation, but it does give us right now this opportunity to rethink how things are going. And again, I'm absolutely grateful to everyone that was involved in this. And also to Mr. Alvarez, if you had seen the bizarre preschool drawings that I had given him and that he turned into professional-looking visuals that would help you all understand what on earth I was talking about, you'd be very impressed. So I appreciate Mr. Alvarez and the work that we've done on the operational side as well. Ms. Fiembres has been fantastic in helping us figure out what our financial impact would be and whether or not that was a reasonable impact. I will tell you that I am recommending 5 additional FTEs to be added to our district team in order for us to be able to stand up these school improvement teams. And really, though, it's not quite enough to have the total impact that we're waiting, that we're hoping for. But financially, I just don't think it's a good time for us to invest in those additional, what I think is probably between 8 and 10 FTEs. So what I mean is, if we have one person, so we're recommending a director of employee experience, for instance, right? Well, that's like a school counselor with 1,000 contacts, right? So at the schools, when we hit 1,000 students, we have another counselor, right? So that we can hopefully give the time and attention that those, young people need. So our folks who are, in the midst of their career and looking to grow also need more time and attention. It's just that right now, I wouldn't recommend that we make that kind of financial investment, because I don't want us to get over our skis until we can make sure that this is making sense. Like, if we're seeing that we're making progress, if we start to see, the growth and retention that we're hoping for, then that would be a different conversation and a different recommendation that I would make for you all. So I want to make sure that we're making a reasonable investment, but do know that the idea is that in this upcoming year, the Chief Operations Officer would be looking for any friction points that exist between our operational teams and our school teams that are providing that direct service to children. And by the way, that's a two-way street. We can actually, on the instructional side of the house, we're in charge of causing a ruckus, and then we wonder why the operational team is just befuddled by what we're doing. So there's work to do both ways to make sure that, we're smoothing any friction, but they're also going to be looking for those enterprise opportunities that we might be able to stand up during the 27-28 school year and start bringing in that additional revenue. So that will be happening. Our schools are going to be receiving ILT support from that network team weekly. So those 3 teams, are going to be working at their 4 sites every week. So they're gonna have that additional support that's happening. Obviously, our employee onboarding, mentoring, career growth, that's all going to be based out of our talent division. Our CIO is going to be working with our family engagement team to create some aligned family engagement. So we really want to think through, what does being an impactful parent, and by impactful, I mean academically impactful, okay? What does that look like? And how can we support parents in their growth? Because we know in our conversations with our families that we have an extraordinary community that we get to serve, and sometimes they just aren't sure of what to do. These kids are amazing, but they don't come with a manual. And then when you insert something as bureaucratic as school into that, it really gets hard for families sometimes to navigate. So we're hoping to create some family engagement, some classes, some support structures that can help families navigate these instructional institutions. And then obviously for our CFO, we want to take a look at financial forecasting for the next couple of years. We're in a really odd time. Obviously, we're seeing declining birth rates across the country, not just here. And so it's important for us to take a moment. We don't really need to close any schools right now, and I would much rather start looking at our building usage, at our trends, how our finances are looking into the future at a time when we're not so pressured. I worry sometimes, you kind of get to this critical mass and you have no choice but to have those conversations. I'd like for us to at least consider where we are. What do we think would be those indicators that might, tell a future board, hey, it is time for us to have those, difficult conversations about building use. But also, we just had some really, frankly, successful kindergarten evenings. The events and activities that our leaders did at their school sites were very heartening in terms of, our kindergarten enrollment. And so we'll keep an eye on what this next kindergarten class looks like. So I want to be clear to show these are the recommended additional FTEs. One is for the Chief Operations Officer. Obviously, that's in operations. The Director of Employee Experience will be housed in talent management. The one director position of school improvement systems, that would be an additional FTE. Remember those 3 school network teams? One of those director positions would be new. In order to make this work, there would also be one additional exceptional student services coordinator role that would happen, as well as an administrative coordinator. So we have some extraordinarily talented really, really smart cookies who are our administrative supports here at district office. And so we actually think that we can have someone like that, so a non-certificated person who can help with some of the compliance tasks that are currently taking some of our certificated colleagues out of doing that work in the classrooms and instead, needing to do some of those compliance tasks. And so we're recommending one of those positions. Again, in the future, I think that we could probably stand to have 2 of those people at work, because truly the compliance work that our colleagues do, it's pretty onerous. We really can't say enough about how much work, like just how productive our ed services team and our team over here are, given how lightly staffed we are. And we're also obviously missing some people out of our community impact enterprise. We really do need another person in that marketing space. We just need to wait, on that. And also, it would be fantastic for us to stand up another school improvement network team, so that we could have 4 teams that would only be serving 3 schools, in order to really get that impact that we're hoping for, all right? Because right now, those 3 teams are supporting basically 400 faculty members, all right? And so if we had a 4th team, I just think it would be more realistic for us to be able to have the impact that we really want to have in terms of helping the staff. That's my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cruz. That is an impactful presentation. So I'm sure my colleagues will have some questions.
I don't have a question. It was a great presentation. This is a huge undertaking, but I think it is going to be all around great for our district, for the schools, for just everybody, on the same page, working together, working with each other. It's a great plan, and I fully support it. And with communication to the staff and everything, I think the fear factor has gone down, because, you've presented, you've told them, what the expectations are going to be. I think it's going to be great, and I thank you, Dr. Cruz, for your leadership.
Mr. President, Ms. Sarin, thank you so much. And also thank you, because you jogged my memory that we should be just under about 15 employees that are actually impacted by needing to apply for these positions that are going to form, because their job descriptions are no longer going to exist. Those employees will need to apply for a position and be selected in order for them to continue with us into the upcoming school year, which is why our target, the timeline for this, is actually to have all those recommendations to the governing board by the end of March. So our timeline is a really tight turnaround on this. For our chief level roles, those positions will be posted externally and internally. For the roles that are not chief roles, those roles will be posted internally. Once we are done with that process internally, and all internal folks have either been selected or not selected, once that dust settles, then we will post those jobs externally. So thank you for that. I appreciate that, so that I could remember to tell you that.
Any other questions or comments? So mine's more of a comment. I have jotted multiple notes, or many notes, but I'll start backwards, going frontwards. To what Ms. Sarin said, Dr. Cruz, the proactive communication and engagement that took place. So in the spirit of transparency, audience members and public, we asked some of those questions in terms of communication, how this was being vetted out. And again, I think we could all agree to disagree at times. And I know that anytime there's a refocus, a repurpose, a reorg, whatever word or paradigm you want to use, or shift happens, right? We want to be prepared. We want to let our internal audience, our internal customers know, our stakeholders, what's happening. And again, that doesn't mean that everyone's going to agree to this, because this is big. This is big, and I know that, again, I'm not speaking for all board members, but I am speaking for the collective board, that those were some of our questions, and one of them was, is this too big, a lot, too fast? Because we've been there. I've been there, and I think we are prepared to, I'm in a favorable position, as Ms. Sarin said, to continue. I know we haven't voted yet, but I appreciate this effort because it's not easy. It's a big lift, and it is a paradigm shift. But you know, folks, we are in a situation now where it's a different world, and I'm looking at Patty now. I'm thinking Miss Tussey, and that is that we talked about this, Dr. Cruz. The workforce is different now. It's not worse. It's not better. I'm not here judging. I'm just saying it is a different workforce. It really is, and I think that, you know, I've said this before. We could a lot of times recruit, but if we're not able to retain and keep these individuals here for a period of time, it's not only a sustainable issue, it's an issue for us as a district, I believe. But I mentioned I wrote down human capital and capacity. I think that's going to be very important. Targeted focus in terms of this plan, this enterprise plan, I think is certainly something that bears a lot of conversation, and I know that those conversations have taken place. The school support network teams, I think, will be really the crux of this, right? The anchor, if you will. I think that will be the foundation. And again, I know what's happening, folks. I'm not in those meetings. I know that, but certainly, I certainly hope as a supporter of yours, each of you, and collectively, that the conversations do take place in the hallway, and sometimes they're not nice. Oh, what's going on now? What the heck's going on now? Why this? Why, hey, we're okay at this school. Why, so those things happen. But if you look at our little over 8,000 students and our 1,000 employees and our community, we need to look at big picture at times. And I think that when you look at a model such as this, hopefully, and I'm very hopeful that it will capture that, the whole, the management systems. I think it's not a concern, Dr. Cruz, so do not misinterpret this, is that although I say this carefully, the school support network teams are going to be the vital piece to this, I believe, right? Because that's where the rubber hits the road. The piece you mentioned fluidity, and how fluid it is and what's going to happen. I know it's not a crapshoot. I know it's not going, oh, well, we'll see what happens today or tomorrow. But I think the evaluative measures that we embed in there will be critical, right? To see, is this working? Is this team working or not? This team's awesome, but this team isn't really getting it done for this school. I mean, those are going to be, I think that's the unknown sometimes, right? But that's also the beauty. I'm not being negative. I'm being, I'm half full versus half empty. So I think that's going to be my challenging piece in terms of how this works, because last but not least, again, I've said it already a few times, I think the anchor is going to be the network teams and how we support our staff members. I'm excited, Ms. Tussey, for that, the new position in the talent management department, because, it does. I mean, it's a different world, folks, and anyway, so those are my comments. Okay.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I just had a couple comments. I'm hearing everything from my colleagues. I'm right behind you there. I just wanted to tell you that on slide 5, I love this model, because right in the center of it is the student learning. And I think that all of the changes and all of the fluidity of the different departments and everything, I can see that vision, that it funnels directly to student learning. And that's what I really took away from this model specifically. And it kind of just tied everything up, all of your other slides. It's very innovative, and it's proactive. And I think that's what we need to be focusing on, because of everything, the way, funding goes. I mean, just the world in general this is very proactive, and I definitely think it can take us where we need to go. And I just want to thank you for the presentation. You covered I don't even have any questions, so thank you.
Mr. President, Ms. Granado, thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Granado. Anybody else? Okay.
I just, go ahead.
No, you first. Go ahead.
So, first of all, thank you very much for this information. Obviously, we had a deeper presentation during our retreat, which obviously made sense for us to do that. And even now, it's now coming together for me. And so I appreciate you pulling this together. One of the things that I think is going to be a really positive outcome of this is that I believe that educators want to be innovators. they want to be in that fluid environment, but with some structure that provides at the end what we are in business for, and that's student growth, student learning. And so I'm excited for, in particular, our internal employees who are ready to take on this challenge. And obviously, if there's external individuals that, are interested, if a position wasn't filled initially by our internal person, I believe we'll have a good set of talent that will consider this as innovative and less structured. The other thing that I think is important is that you've done so much research. This didn't come out of the air. You took some time, and I'm sure your cabinet was involved in this, to do some studying around what works and what potentially would not work. And so if you could just give us a few examples of the research that you did, because I think that's important for us to know. How did you get here? It didn't just come out of the sky. And don't answer that question yet. And the last question, because you may be able to fit it in, was there a model that you researched that fit what your objectives were in this movement that you have here? I call it a movement because that's what it is.
Mr. President, Ms. Ortega Rosales, so in terms of the model, one of the things that I think my colleagues probably dislike about my day is that I start the mornings with 30 minutes of research, and it has different disciplines that I look at. It's government policy, and then, frankly, Harvard Business Review and what's coming out of the business world, and then also, of course, like educational work. And so that's just kind of a part of what happens every day. My colleagues get gifted all kinds of research articles and other nerdy things that I send them. I can tell how much they appreciate that based on some of the response that I get. And so like in looking at the work, you can actually start to see some patterns are emerging. So one of the things that we're seeing is that there are some systems that are moving towards an enterprise model. They frankly are outperforming us. I can tell you also that here in Arizona, I know the Tempe Elementary School District is moving towards an enterprise model. If you look at that work, that Dr. Driscoll, that's their superintendent, had patterned after ASU. So Arizona State University uses an enterprise model. And it's actually how they've diversified their income sources quite a bit. And so, ASU, quite frankly, financially is in a very different place than their other, in-state universities. And so then you're thinking, well, how on earth does that ever translate into a K-8 space, right? Well, it translates because years ago that was not their outlook. They were completely reliant upon either tuition or, government, support. And so by choosing to diversify, their space is thriving where you see other spaces starting to really have some challenges. And it's very easy to see the writing on the wall in terms of how our state legislature funds us, how they don't fund us, some of the ways that folks talk about, our work. And we've always been fortunate because for many, many years, we've had a workforce outlook in Pendergast. And so we've had some outstanding relationships with the business community. And so it really makes sense for us to actually adopt some of those best practices from those organizations and think through how can we then use that, replicate that in our space to have even more return on our investment, right? So we want that ROI. For us, that's student learning. That's more student learning, right? Greater student achievement. So, what we want to get out of this is not, dollars and cents, but, there's the reality. Like, we have to pay people. We need to keep the lights on. We need kids to have the instructional materials that they need. And so that's part of where this came from. So it really was this connectivity between multiple disciplines. As you know, you all had the opportunity to meet Bill and Kathleen from Parrott and Associates, and all of their work that they've done on high-performing, high-poverty schools. We have done that training and work. And as far as they know, we're the only school district that is taking on that work as a system. They haven't seen other systems trying to take on that work. Typically, they get asked out to do the work with one or two underperforming school sites, and they haven't seen anyone get after this for their entire system. But for us, it just makes sense to scale that work across the system because every child deserves that reliability, right? So it doesn't matter which school you enroll your child in, they should have the opportunity to have those same outstanding outcomes for that kid. Their future needs to be equally powerful and enabled, no matter which one of our 12 sites. And so that's when you start to think about scaling. So if you look at the work surrounding scaling, this also relates to that. And again, that comes from the business research. And then, in terms of the intergenerational poverty work, I have to say the National Academy of Sciences has done some outstanding work relatively recently in 2024. They did a pretty comprehensive study of the impacts of poverty, where it comes from, and what communities can do potentially to impact poverty and actually help people in poverty move up in that socioeconomic class. And certainly for young people, it is early childhood educational experiences, making sure that their mothers have opportunities for ongoing learning, and career growth. Those child care opportunities are extraordinarily important. But also then, its other twin is education. And what are the educational outcomes for students, who attend schools and communities that have some poverty in them? And so if you kind of take all those different pieces and you bring all that different work together, you really you can sift through that work. Marzano's work on what effective schools are doing. So there are actually all these different threads from school improvement, from that social impact work, and then, from business that really come together. And so what's interesting is talking then to different people in those disciplines who are like, oh yeah, that'll work. It'll work if you do it like this. So it's been really interesting. And again, I can't speak enough to the work that my colleagues have done. For Mrs. Elliott, ChatGPT, our robot overlord, said we should start this in September. And I was like, hey, let's go for it in December. Why not? Who needs those 3 months anyway? And so, Mrs. Elliott has really done an extraordinary lift here in order to get some of these technical pieces ready. And really, really appreciate that work. But, again, all of our colleagues are just phenomenal human beings, and they've just, brought this together. Did that answer your question, Ms. Rosales?
Yeah, and just one other comment. I'm just really, really excited for our employees. These are great opportunities. And, at the end of the day, if they're thriving, we're thriving. So I'm excited. Do you have some time frame that you'll be coming back to us and kind of giving us a little bit of an update with in mind that things change, right? They're fluid, but just so that we can keep up with what is currently occurring, but how we can help you, because there will be a few obstacles. I don't want to use that word, but there'll be a few hiccups here and there, and we want to be there. If I can speak for my colleagues, we want to be there to support you behind that.
Mm-hmm. Mr. President, Mr. Ortega Rosales, yeah, I appreciate that. So in terms of looping back, there are a few things that will be happening. Over the course of the next few months, you all will see some recommendations for hire for colleagues to move into these new positions, so you will see that. Additionally, you will see us, we still have the administrative position that we need to complete that job description for. Some of our colleagues who are currently in jobs, we actually just need to reclassify. And so you will see some job descriptions will come back for some relatively minor updates. So you're gonna see that work, and again, you're gonna start to see our governing board agendas with names populating into these jobs. So that's kind of the concrete thing that you're gonna see over the course of this semester. When you see that, people will have different job assignments, and they will be parts of different network teams. It's going to be up to our Chief Learning Innovation Officer to figure out how to connect those schools and then how to form those network teams. So we want to make sure that there are some connecting threads, so that we can get a better bang for our buck with either training or expertise that's needed. So you will see that. You will actually see those network teams get formed and those schools. In some other concrete pieces, this will obviously be part of our strategic plan goals for this upcoming year. And we're going to need to monitor how this is working when we tell our colleagues, here's the sandbox, stay in bounds, So we will actually be giving y'all some updates relevant, to the strategic plan, and then also for some goals for myself. So concretely, we'll have those conversations as well as a governance team about how this is working. At the midterm, so next year, December, I am very hopeful to have ridiculous amounts of student learning to tell you all about. So that's really our most important outcome, all right? Can we improve outcomes for children, when we work like this? And then again, next year, March, okay, so March 2027, I'm hopeful that we have a ridiculous number of returning teachers, and returning administrators, folks who are signing those contracts, staying with us because they know that this is the place to be. So there are a few different, performance metrics that I think we need to keep track of, and we will be updating you all as that's going, because quite frankly, if this is dumb, we should stop. And just send everybody back to their cubicles and let's go back to the way, that's the easiest thing in the world to do is to tell these folks, hey, just go back to whatever it was you were doing before because we were making incremental progress, right? The harder thing is going to be to persevere through some of the awkwardness and some of the communication that's going to really need to happen in order to get this off the ground.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Mr. Mr. Casella, sorry.
You're promoting me already? No, thank you, Mr. President. I had a couple questions and then some comments at the end as well. First, regarding the price tag, the $675,000, how many new employees or how many positions that don't exist now does that include?
It includes five, but
okay.
also I believe that is an overestimate of how much we're actually going to need to invest in this space. Right. I would just much rather, for transparency and to make sure the public knows how we're using public funds, to say that it could be up to that bar. But obviously, you all will be taking action for our recommendations for people's salaries. But that is looking at 5 FTEs right now. And we will see where we land, yes.
And then, Mr. President, kind of a follow-up to that. I know you mentioned also that ideally you would have an additional 8 to 10 as well. What would that price tag look like in an ideal world? Yeah.
Mr. President.
I know it's a tough question. But.
Yeah, Senator Casada, no, actually the price tag on that is somewhere around $900,000.
900, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, thank you for that. I guess I kind of wanted for us to consider that because at some point, I'm hoping we as a board will be in a position where we can be considering that ideal structure, where we're looking at that. But it's important for us to consider what that price tag is going to look like as well. So just we're not there yet, obviously, but just something to keep in mind. Another question, you mentioned some of the diversification of income opportunities that you're looking to find. And then I think you mentioned one district that does that printing shop. Another district has like a curriculum that they market out as well. Where are we kind of now? Like, what do you think we have that we could possibly make money off of?
Mr. President, Senator Casada, I have some very smart colleagues across the state that I do not wish to have them beat us to the punch. But
okay, fair enough.
We have some, particularly some outstanding operational departments that I think we could potentially scale and be a service provider for.
I mean, I think that's fantastic. I really love that idea of us diversifying our income in that way. So I'm very anxious to kind of learn more about what those things might be in the future. But those are my questions. I have some comments as well. I think first. I know you mentioned at the beginning that we are, and I hope I'm speaking for all of us here, but we're seeing incremental improvements, and I agree. I think we've seen those. I think we're at a point where we need to see those increments get a little bit bigger. So this is what I hope will get us to that point. I like that we are. I like that this is research-based for one. I always appreciate something that's research-based, and that takes from different disciplines. You're looking at kind of the business world, you're looking at what other educational institutions are doing. But I also appreciate that, I feel like I would be much more hesitant about this as a board member if we were simply looking at a business model and trying to apply it to our school district, because I'm not in favor of that. We are not a business operation, and I think that you've acknowledged that and you've put that in your presentation that we are a social enterprise, and that doesn't mean we can't steal from business practices and apply them, but we should never be seeking to replicate a business model ever. Because that's not what we do, and I think that will ultimately hurt kids rather than help them.
Right.
So I like that we are taking those good elements from business practices and applying them here. I think that's intelligent, and so I appreciate that approach. And I guess I just wanted to kind of put that out there, that I think that's a smart way to approach this. But we should not be trying to scale everything. I know that some scaling is good, but scaling things just as a practice in and of itself is not wise in education. So I guess I feel confident that you, because I know you, that you kind of have the right mindset in terms of like taking the good things and applying them to our model and to what we do here, and you have a firm understanding about what our model is here and what we do here. So I don't know if I would feel as comfortable with that if we had different leadership in place, you know. So I guess I want to say I do feel comfortable about that, and it's because I know you, I know where you're coming from, I know what you're trying to accomplish. I like that we are, and I always am supportive of us trying to stay ahead of the curve as well and take some calculated risks. I've said that before. I fully support us doing that because that's the only way we're ever going to advance and get ahead. We have to try and we have to fail sometimes, you know. And this is a risky. As much as I like what we're doing here, this is a risky proposition, and it's an expensive proposition. And so I've tried over the last several months that we've been kind of talking about this to be very cognizant of that we are taking a risk here, and it is costing us an estimated $600, almost $750,000 to do this. That's a big expenditure for a school district. And then there's a possibility that could be more, up to almost $1 million if we ever get to a point where we fully expand what we want to do. That's a big cost to us, and I don't want to do that lightly. But at the same time, I think that it's the timing is right. I think that the motivation is right, and I feel like the people we have in place is right to do that. I'm comfortable moving forward with that. I'm anxious to see how this turns out. I think there's a lot of kind of stuff that still needs to get figured out, and I think that there's going to be a lot of adjustment in terms of employees and just changed way of doing things that's just not normal compared to other districts. And that's going to impact our hiring at the end of the day too, when we're bringing new people into this system. So that's going to be a risk as well. I think it might make things a little bit more difficult at first, but then I think it also could make things better after that. Once people start to realize and the word kind of gets out, this is what Pendergast does, and this is how they operate, that could improve things. But at first, we may see a dip in our recruitment. And then I think, I know I shared this at our last meeting, but I'm also very cognizant of, I want us to implement something that's going to outlast the people that are sitting in this room, right? Like, I don't want, this is great for Dr. Cruz. I want it to be great for whoever comes after Dr. Cruz as well, And so I think that this could be that. It could not be, but I'm confident that it could be. And I have confidence that Dr. Cruz is going to set it up in a way that when she, for whatever reason, decides to step away at some point, 30 years from now, but when she does, she'll leave it in a place where whoever steps in can step in and take it to the next level as well. So I guess those are all just things that have been going through my mind. Other little points about each of the different positions as well, but we don't need to get into those. But I guess I just wanted to put that on record and have that be spoken.
Yeah. Mr. President, Senator Quesada, thank you so much for that reflective conversation. And honestly, you just make such a fantastic thought partner. It's so appreciated. In fact, that's really the best thing that happens is when I have the opportunity to talk with you all and you have questions that really kind of push our thinking, make us really reflect on the work and whether or not we're moving in the right direction for kids. In terms of, too, I want to make sure to be clear, in terms of the enterprise pieces and where we might, grow to be a service provider, we are going to bring that to the governing board. Obviously, we will absolutely bring that to you. It's obviously required that we bring it to you, but we would never not bring it to you. We just need to give some time for us to figure out where it is appropriate for us to scale, because we will really need to stand something up alongside our current student services. We really couldn't, tell one division of employees, you now have 2 full-time jobs, right? Like, that would never work. So, it really would be more like memorandums of understanding that we might bring up between multiple systems, or, standing up an entire new enterprise that would be going almost like parallel to the system. So I do want to make sure, that you all know that we will absolutely bring that to you, and we will actually need board approval before we move forward with that. Additionally, there's a whole stable full of attorneys that can't wait to talk to me right now and figure out the legal way for us to do these things. So I really do appreciate that. And, Senator Quesada, also to your point about the funding, it is a scary thing when we start to move into these big numbers, right? It really, really is. And I'm just so confident in my colleagues. They do such outstanding work that I really believe that if we scale that up and just, provide a higher dose of support than what any one person is able to give right now, because they're just giving and giving and giving. There's just not enough of them, that I do think that we can grow that impact.
I have one more comment based on what Senator Quesada said. And in my mind, yeah, that's a lot of money that we're investing. But I read one of the books you gave us around how you get children out of poverty through education. And there's some really interesting and innovative things that have been done by others throughout the country. But at the end of the day, and we've all been here long enough, including now Monica, almost a couple of years, that at the end of the day, and all we have, of course, is of our assessments, right? But at the end of the day, are we doing what we need to do for our children to thrive? And I see the investment in that very carefully being thought how we're going to do that, especially during these times that we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring from a financial perspective. But at the end of the day, if we keep student learning at the forefront, we as a board, I believe, all would say that it's worth every penny for those children who live here and not at Paradise Valley. We want to give those kinds of opportunities to our students, to help them to get out of that poverty cycle that a lot of our children are in. So we have to be innovative. We have to be brave to take this on. This is not going to be easy. And I am sure that Dr. Cruz will have a couple of sleepless nights, but she's committed. And this is a good place for her to do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think the constant element, the constant component to change is change itself, right? So here we are. With that said, can I have a motion to approve the job descriptions for the proposed organizational model as presented?
I'll make a motion.
Ms. Lucero makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Monica Granado seconds. Any discussion? That being the case, with that being the case, Carrie, please take a roll call vote.
Martin Quesada,
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales,
Yes.
Susan Sarin,
Yes.
Monica Granado,
Yes.
and Jose Arenas.
Yes.
There being 5 in favor, the motion carries.
Great. Good luck, Dr. Cruz, and to your cabinet. We're in a good place. As we continue, any future board agenda items, are there any items anyone would like to see added to future board agendas?
I guess just kind of along those lines, I was thinking about this on the way over, so I should have talked with you about this, and I didn't, so my apologies, Dr. Cruz. But I wonder if we can work into our agendas just kind of a periodic. I know we're going to get updates in terms of when we have job descriptions and new hires, but just kind of periodic overall updates. Here's like how, and I don't know if that's quarterly or I don't know. But we can figure out a timeline that works. But like, let's look at our model and see how it's working for us.
Okay, so what I hear is you'd like to see a quarterly or some strategic
we'll figure that out,
updates
yeah.
throughout the course of
There
the.
you go, yes.
All right. Thank you, Senator Casada. Anyone else? With that said, just informational piece, future governing board meetings Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, 6 p.m. Regular board meeting will be here at the Pendergast Board Room, District Office. Can I have a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting of February 3rd, 2026?
I'll make a motion.
Vice President Granato makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Lucero seconds. With that said, Carrie, please take a roll call vote.
Martin Casada?
Yes.
Hilda Ortega Rosales?
Yes.
Susan Sarin?
Yes.
Monica Granado?
Yes.
And Jose Arenas?
Yes.
5 in favor, the motion carries.
Meeting adjourned. Have a good evening, folks. Be safe.